In this video, we're going to be discussing the possibilities for NHL expansion and NHL relocation. There's some further news coming out of Houston to suggest that their interest is quite high in an NHL team. So we're going to discuss that and what the future could hold for the NHL in the next few years. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If this is your first time on the channel, thanks for stopping by. We analyze and review all 31 teams as well as all the latest NHL news on this channel with an unbiased opinion. So if you love hockey, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss anything. Alright, let's dive into the content at hand here. NHL expansion and relocation. As you can see behind me, there's now 3 cities, in my opinion, that are really at the forefront of really wanting an NHL team and are pretty well close to being ready for a new franchise. Obviously, the latest news comes out of Houston, where the owner of the Houston Rockets, who also owns the Toyota Center, pictured behind me here, really wants NHL hockey in Houston and has recently met with the league to discuss the possibilities. Now, in the press release, the owner admitted that he was in meeting with the league and he had lots of questions. He wanted to know why the NHL wasn't already in Houston, if they felt it was a good move, and had lots of questions around what it might take to get a team down there. Obviously, he already owns an arena, which is mainly right now meant for basketball, but would be really easy to convert to a hockey rink. So he wants to get that arena full for more days of the year, and this would be a prime opportunity for him to do so. The city of Houston is one of the largest markets in the United States who does not have an NHL team currently. So I think from a population standpoint, as well as the other success they've had in the state of Texas with the Dallas Stars and past other minor hockey league teams in the Houston area, I think Houston probably would be a very successful market for NHL hockey. One other important point to note here is in a couple of years' time, I believe it's in 2020, the CBA is going to be up for a renegotiation between the Players Association and the league. Obviously, one of the biggest points of contention is usually revenue sharing, and obviously adding another large market like Houston to the NHL family would certainly help boost revenues and would certainly be good for both sides. So I think from that standpoint, there's probably a lot of ownership, NHL executives, and players who would probably be all for having a team in Houston. But how would that work? In my opinion, the most likely scenario is relocation. A couple of things. Based on the fact that the ownership down there who owns the Rockets and the Toyota Arena, they just spent $2.2 billion purchasing that team in the arena. Obviously, they got pretty deep pockets, but are they going to want to turn around and spend another $700 million on a new NHL franchise and probably wait 3-4 years for that team to come together? I don't think so. Personally, we all know, as we've discussed on this channel before, as well as others, there is a few teams at least that need to really seriously consider relocating to a new market. You look at a team like the Coyotes, for example, the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, just to name a couple. Seeing as the city of Houston could be ready for a team very quickly, considering the arena's already there, I think it makes most sense that they do relocate one of the other teams. Now, obviously, the Coyotes need to figure out something, and they need to do it quickly for an arena. Obviously, the Carolina group is looking to sell. I think they'd have to come down in price in order for Houston to buy them and move them there. Personally, I think it's likely is going to happen. I think Houston jumps in front of Seattle as the main U.S. market who is likely to gain the next NHL franchise, but I'm not sure that it's going to be a new franchise. I think it's going to be a relocation, and I think the 2 prime targets are the Coyotes or the Hurricanes. Obviously, as we previously discussed on this channel as well, the city of Seattle is very, very interested in bringing NHL hockey to their city as well. As I noted a few weeks ago on this channel, we did a video regarding Seattle as future expansion, possibly looking at 2020, for example. I think it's still quite likely. The last video we made on that topic had the Seattle City Council going to discuss and vote on the funding for the new arena that they're talking about building there at the Seattle Center. Obviously, that passed the committee meeting and has now gone on to the full council vote, which is going to be happening on December the 4th. So in the next couple of weeks here, we're going to have more news out of Seattle as to whether or not that plan is going to get approved by City Council. I think Seattle is more likely for an expansion team than Houston, and I think that they still need to get an arena in place. They've got a lot of things in motion that's going to help make that happen, but where they're going to need a few years to be ready, I think it makes most sense that ends up being an expansion area myself. Now let's not forget the fact that the city of Quebec City is more than ready for an NHL hockey team. As you can see behind me here with the old Nordiques logo, I think Quebec City is primed and ready and really wanting an NHL team as bad, if not worse, than Seattle and Houston. But I also think that for the Nordiques to return to Quebec, more than likely, as I've discussed on this channel before, relocation is going to have to be the way to go. I mean, if you look around the NHL, there's 2 or 3 teams that are more than likely going to have to be relocated sooner than later. And obviously, I think ideally the NHL would like to expand one more club at least, make it an even 32, 16 in each conference. I think, to me, that makes the most sense. It evens out all the divisions, it evens out the conferences, makes things nice and easy to flow. So if you look at that and look at the fact that there's multiple franchises that are struggling and need to move, I think they could very well keep the conferences the way they are, add Seattle in a few years to make the Western Conference even to the East, and you could have one of the Western teams, probably the Coyotes, move to Houston, and then we could have maybe the Hurricanes move to Quebec City so that the Nordiques can make their triumphant return to the NHL. Personally, if I'm rooting personally for any of these cities, it's Quebec City. Just because I live in Canada, Quebec City's not that far from me. I'd love to see the Nordiques return. They worked really hard to get an arena up and going, and I think the fans there really deserve another chance to make a team succeed. So that's my personal preference. That's just because of where I'm at and where I'm located. However, at the same time, I think more than likely Houston jumps ahead of both of these cities, though, as the forefront and most likely to gain a team, just because I think we would probably see, if any team were to be relocated, I think the Coyotes would be the first to go. And if the Coyotes are first to go, the NHL is going to prefer to keep them in the West, and Houston appears to be quite ready to jump into the mix here and take that on. So then you look at the East, the Hurricanes are in a similar situation, but not quite as urgent as the Coyotes. And then you get Seattle, who's in a couple of weeks here should know for sure how that's going to work, getting an arena in place, and they can look to expand there. Probably looking at, I'm not sure when that would be ready. I know ideally, based on the reports out of Seattle, they want to have hockey ready for the fall of 2020. I think a lot of determining whether or not that happens is going to be the case of the CBA. The CBA is going to have to be renegotiated and extended, and there is a possible work stoppage or lockout or something that could happen around that same time as well. So I think something the NHL is going to have to consider for their next expansion team is I know the players would really like to have a piece of the pie here when it comes to expansion money, and they're almost always asking for a bigger cut of the other revenues. So there's a lot to be worked out in the NHL. But in my opinion, I think all 3 of these cities behind me, I think we're going to see Houston, Seattle, and Quebec City all at some point in the next 2 to 4 years. Probably all end up with NHL teams, if not a little bit sooner. So I'm going to say that my prediction would be that the Coyotes and the Hurricanes relocate, but remain in each conference, and that Seattle gets the next expansion team. So let me know what you think down below. Do you think Houston is going to get an NHL team? And do you think it's more likely relocation or expansion? And what are your thoughts on Seattle and Quebec City? If you liked this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you leave some comments down below to let me know what you think of all 3 of these possible NHL cities. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button in the middle of your screen so you can keep watching Top Shelf Hockey.